Hi, and welcome to my channel. If you haven't met me before, my name is Jerry. So in my last session, I did promise that I was going to show you how to use one of the sex modules that I created. Obviously, if you have a look at here, you would see that this is the second module, which I said looks quite complex, and therefore I wouldn't show you how to use this at the moment until we get to chapter 16 of the book. So today, I'm just going to quickly show you how to use the first sex module called Sex Test Questions Module, STQM for short. So this has 5 questions, and you're expected to have achieved 4 no's for the first 4 questions and 1 yes for the last question. So what this tries to do is that this module wants to help you to identify the sex acts or ideas that are godly and that you can safely use as a Christian. If you fail one of the 5 questions, that means you shouldn't go ahead to use the sex idea or module or action. So the first question asks, does this activity alter one's view on sexuality? The expectation is that you say no, but if you do say yes, it means that you have failed it, and therefore there's no point for you to go ahead to the second question. However, in this case, let's just assume that you have said no, and let's pick a sex act or idea. In this case, let's just take pornography as a case study. So let's assume, even though it's not true, but let's assume that porn, we have just said that it does not alter one's view on sexuality. So if we said no, then we can then go to the second question. But ideally, actually, apart from porn, in other sex um, acts or ideas, if you have started it newly, it might not actually be a yes to you. So in this case, let's say you just started using porn newly as a couple, and therefore you can actually say no because it doesn't at the moment. So if we go to the second question asks, do you feel like a captive to this activity? Well, obviously, if you say yes, that means that you shouldn't go ahead. And obviously, this is where people might start interpreting the sex idea as having addiction. But this is actually beyond addiction. If you're feeling like a captive, meaning you couldn't have sex with your wife or your husband without actually watching porn, or probably is actually after the sex itself. As I actually explained, as I thoroughly explained in the book. So if you think that porn has a very strong impact in your life, then it's a no. But obviously, if you have answered yes to question one, or if you answered, sorry, no to question one, then the likelihood is that you might say no as well to question two. So let's assume that you have just said no to question two. That should allow us to go to question three. So in question three, then, it says, do you have experience? Sorry, do you experience strange feelings, whispers, dreams, wet sleep, or sex dreams before or after involving yourself in this particular sex idea? So for porn, well, somebody might say yes and another might say no, but it doesn't matter what you say because we still have 2 other questions to go. But for the benefit of still exploring more of the question, let's just say it is a no. But ideally, I would expect that it should be a yes to a Christian because some Christians might probably have wet dreams or experience some strange things before they use porn. And that's like a warning coming from God to reveal to them that, look, you're about to fall into a particular sin and therefore you should avoid it. And let's say that you're a new Christian or you don't actually know that God is the one speaking to you and you've just answered no meaning you've achieved 3 no's. And if you achieve 3 no's, then you have to go to the next one, which is the fourth one. And the fourth one says, does this activity relate to any sex act or idea prohibited in the Bible? Now, it becomes less tricky. For porn, absolutely. It is not just related to sex ideas prohibited in the Bible, but we have some clear biblical passages that actually prohibit porn usage. Obviously, you can find those passages in my book, Godly Bed Pleasures, they are there. So if you now answer yes, that actually the Bible prohibits uh, the activity or the idea, then there's no reason why you have to go on to utilize that act. But for the benefit of going to question 5, let's pretend as if that porn is not, because actually there are sex ideas that you might find that might not be in the Bible explicitly, and you know that they have probably been prohibited, but you still want to try your luck. So, question 5 is expected for you to say yes. So, it says, are there at least 2 biblical verses that explicitly support this activity? Now, if you say yes, then that would be an evidence for you to go ahead. But let's go back to our point. Now, we don't have a single biblical uh, verse that explicitly supports porn, and therefore we can't say yes. You might want to make assumptions, but there's no place in the Bible where it says yes. Instead, what you find is actually a no. So in this case, we cannot go ahead to involve ourselves in porn for, be it educational purposes or for creativity or whatever it is. I mean, I'm not going to spoil it for you. I'll leave it for you to read the book and then find out more. But yeah, that actually brings us to the end of how to use this particular sex model, which helps you to identify godly sex acts, and you can use it as you go ahead to read the book. I hope that helps. Well, if you do have any questions, please do feel free to contact me and I'll be pleased to answer your questions, whatever they are. If I can't answer them, obviously we can take them back to God. I hope that this helps. Thank you very much for your time and God bless.